Let's take a look at the TeslaFSDTracker.com. This has been, and I'm sure you guys look at this on the regular. I guess what they do here is, my understanding is, fans of Tesla or super fans or just passionate people upload their data on some regular basis. Super fan who has the car saying, hey, 82% of the rides had no critical disengagement, meaning 18% did. So 1 in 5 had a critical disengagement, defined as like, hey, this could have caused property or human damage. And now, boom, all of a sudden the spike here, they're up to, 98% basically. Is this data accurate in your mind? And certainly the trend line is, but what do you take away from this kind of data?
Well, I think in general, the biggest challenge in launching a fully driverless product is not actually driving nominally on roads, right? And, arguably you could go back and say in the early days of Google, they had this internal competition called the Larry 1K, where we had to do a bunch of routes through the Bay Area with no disengages. And that was back in like 2009, 2010. And that got done. The challenge is really dealing with every possible edge case and weird scenario, and the people lying down in wetsuits on skateboards, shooting down hills in front of the cars. That's what the bar is, to actually launch something where you don't have any option of a human jumping in and taking control. And so I think that is where the real challenge is. And, I personally feel like FSD is an incredible driver assistant product. I think what Tesla has is phenomenal as an L2 plus system. But there is a massive, massive gap between a system that operates at 98 or 99% of the time without hitting something, and something that the three of us are going to put our kids in and trust that it is going to be safer than us driving behind the wheel. And I think that is what Waymo has demonstrated very clearly to be able to provide that. And that is what we will be launching when we launch with our partners. Like, I think that's the delta.
Waymo is what, 99.39s, 99.29s? Where are they at with critical disengagements, in terms of industry stats and reporting?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak too much about. I'm not deep in the internal weeds there, but they did release some stuff recently that suggested, with enough statistical significance behind them, that they're something like 5 times as safe as a human driver.
Got it.
As sort of an average human driver. And, you can add all sorts of asterisks to what that means, but very clearly safer than a human driver. And if we jump in a Waymo, I think we have every reason to believe that it's a safer option than us jumping in an Uber X or a human-driven equivalent.
What do regulators need to see, what do consumers need to see here in order to feel comfortable with these systems explicitly saying as good as humans, twice as good as humans, 5 times as good as humans, 10 times as good as humans? What does your knowledge, as somebody who's been a technologist in the space for 20 years or so, what do you think the bogey is? What has to be achieved?
I think when folks write, I think Waymo has done a good job sharing some of the numbers to give people confidence. And frankly, I think the numbers that they already have, people, again, when the option is getting in a car driven by a human, like a mobility service vehicle, versus getting in a Waymo, it's pretty clear which is the safer option. And so I think that they've already done what needs to be done technically. In the US, from a regulatory perspective, there aren't clear bars. And I think it'll be hard for us to go down that path, because exactly to your question, Jason, how would you set it? There's a pretty strong ethical argument that as soon as you are epsilon safer than an average human driver, you are actually costing lives if you delay deploying this technology. Now, I think we would all love to have it be 10 times safer and so on. And for sure, that's where we're going to get 10 times, 100 times, whatever. But again, the more we try to establish a very, very arduous initial bar, frankly, the more lives we're losing. We lose 40,000 lives a year on US roads.
Just in the US,
As soon as we can start reducing that, it's a moral imperative for us to do it. Right. So I think we shouldn't let that bigger picture be lost in our desire to make sure that we're on a trajectory to dramatically improve the situation, not just incrementally improve it.